Oh, take your vote.
Good evening and welcome to the Historic Preservation Review Board meeting. This is a called meeting and we appreciate anyone who's here, and we will look forward to public comment later. Roll call.
Mr. Boyd?
Here.
Mr. Anderson?
Here.
Mrs. Hartshorn?
Here.
Mrs. White?
Here.
Mrs. Bond?
Here.
All right. This is a meeting to review a certificate of appropriateness submitted by Mary Sorensen, 117 West Main Street. Staff?
Yeah, so we've seen this in the last couple weeks here, so I won't go into too much detail. Pretty much we've covered and approved everything that needed to be done for the brick portion of the structure, the addition, and the backyard. So tonight is just for the front courtyard area.
All right.
So.
Okay. Ms. Sorensen, can you get up here?
And
I
so,
thought you were finished.
nope, just to go
Okay.
through with the.
Okay.
So some staff findings. The applicant proposes various types of foliage and a decorative rock formation in the southeast corner green space of the property. So right here in this area, where my cursor is. The ground cover for the southeast corner green space will consist of pea gravel of various earthen tones. Within the front courtyard running along the concrete retaining wall will be garden beds. The existing brick walkways will be torn out and replaced with earthen tone concrete pavers set in a herringbone pattern. The bricks from the existing walkways will be relaid in a herringbone pattern as a perimeter around the centrally located earthen tone concrete pavers. Leading from the central courtyard to the green space in the southwest corner are proposed concrete steps. The proposed concrete steps will match as close as possible to the existing concrete steps and the retaining wall. In the southwest corner of the property will be a 10-foot metal flagpole with associated gardens nearby throughout. The garden beds, as depicted on the site plan, will be covered with pea gravel of various earthen tones. The remaining space will be brown pea gravel. Lastly, the applicant proposes a metal railing / handrail for the steps leading from the applicant's front courtyard to the town-owned sidewalk. The newel post will resemble a log, whereas the remaining features of the railing will resemble tree branches. There has been no historical evidence could be found showing this type of railing design was located ever at this property. So we have approved railings in the past, but they've been more of a simple design. And that's all I have for
Okay.
you.
All right. Would you like to go over it with us?
Sure. The one thing on that is that the perimeter relayed brick is not a herringbone, but a soldier course, basically to match in with what's already existing.
Okay.
So it ties into the existing sidewalk. And then also the flower beds, instead of pea gravel, we're talking about an earthen tone, because I couldn't use white rock that's slightly larger than the gravel, so that gives some differentiation between the two, but still the same coloring.
Do you have a sample to show us?
No.
Could you get us a sample?
Standard rock.
I don't know what that means.
It means the same color as pea gravel, but just a slightly larger
Well,
diameter.
But it says various earthen tones.
Correct. Various earthen tones.
Okay, well,
Well, this
is
is the
that
way God.
orange, is that brown? I mean, normally we have materials.
Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't know that I was supposed to bring rocks, but earthen is earthen. It's browns and rusts and terracottas and normal earth tones that match to the gravel, the pea gravel that's everywhere in town. So it's the same color tones, it's just a little bigger diameter.
I mean, typically we see a sample.
Okay.
How big would you say they are, Ms. Sorensen?
Typically, they're about 1 to 2 inches around.
Okay, not too much bigger than the pea gravel?
Mhm. 1 to 2 inches.
Okay. Okay.
Are they river rock, like smooth, or
A smooth river rock.
Okay. All right. So anything else you want to comment on? I mean, Gabe gave a pretty good overview of what you're
No,
doing.
He's covered it. Those are the only 2 exceptions that I saw.
Okay. And so over here on the southwest corner, just to clarify, now on the southwest corner is a plant, just some green, pretty much wild planting there. And that's where this other bed is going to be?
Yes, there's beds on each side and in the middle as well.
And in the middle as well?
Mhm.
Right, okay,
Mhm.
okay,
And along the edges as well.
yeah, okay. And I think that, and with the concrete steps, those steps are the ones that are coming up to the sidewalk on Main Street.
Correct.
Those steps, right there.
Right, but I need an additional set because of the slope of the land going down to the neighbors. I decided it wasn't prudent to take out I guess it's a retaining wall. It's a concrete retaining wall that's about 2 foot high across there. The land slopes, and I didn't want the water running downhill from here because it all runs downhill from here.
Yeah.
And I didn't want it running into the neighbor's basement because their door faces that yard. So I decided to leave the retaining wall and add an additional set of steps to make that retaining wall seems logical.
This is what, you're talking about the one on the south, on the west
Yeah.
side, not the one on the Main Street side?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Because the steps to the Main Street side are already there.
Already, that's what I thought, okay.
Yeah. It's
So
an
the main-
additional set of steps to get up to that other landing area.
Okay, all right, over there on the corner,
They would be right here, kind of where I'm circling with my cursor, if
Yeah,
you can
okay.
see, right here in this area.
okay,
So a retaining wall runs right here, stairs would come up this way.
okay.
Yep.
Is that what this is?
Uh-huh. Okay, and then lastly, for the steps that are going up to the sidewalk running along Main Street,
Mhm.
is the railing you're proposing.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think you've got an image of that right there.
Yes, ma'am, a sketch.
Can you all see that up there? Yes, okay. Okay. Let's talk about that a minute. Do we have any comments on that?
Yes.
I know that Gabe has said that has not been seen in the district.
Well, I don't think there's any evidence of what might have been there.
No, there was
What
no,
might have been there?
there was no historical evidence of that type of railing.
I have a few questions, and
Okay.
so your sketch says 4-inch diameter for the
Mhm.
log or stone.
Post. Mhm.
So it's about
A
that.
baluster size. That's the same size as a standard newel post, pretty much.
And
A
it is,
standard newel post is about 4 inches.
it is cylindrical all the way down. It's a little hard to tell from the sketch, but it's
Yeah.
cylindrical.
Correct.
Now, call it a branch, what you call these, that's sticking out toward the house.
Mhm.
It looks like it's level.
It follows the step line. It has to go at an angle
I know.
because the steps go downhill.
It does, but I'm not getting that from that. I just wanted to confirm that
It
it's
is.
sloping to
Absolutely.
match the steps.
Yeah. Actually, maybe the angle of perspective doesn't show, but it did show it in the drawing.
Not to me, but anyway,
Okay.
that's fine. You've confirmed it. And you have 36 inches, which is kind of right in the middle of what code requires, which is fine, but I just wonder if you want it that high.
The 36?
Well, you could drop it a couple inches. It's just whatever would be the easiest
Mhm.
with someone of your height
Mhm.
to touch and grab. I mean, if
Mhm.
you have a 7-foot person, nothing's going to be tall enough.
That's
So,
correct.
Anyway, that's
If you got
just,
a real short person, it's probably gonna be too tall, but yeah, for average, it's 36.
this meets code, but it's just something you might want to consider.
Mhm.
But I did look up the King Supply number, and I guess you gave us that reference just as a sort of like, would be like.
Correct,
Because that's just it's kind of a panel
correct.
of leaf motif.
I just wanted you to see a reference to an oak leaf that is standard for the mission design, for arts and crafts design.
So, it's metal, what material is it?
Metal, iron,
Well, metal is other things, too.
iron and steel
And-
typically. Some of the components can be aluminum that are non-structural, but the structural part has to be either steel or iron.
Well, is it custom made? I mean, where does that come from?
Yes, sir, it's custom made. I have an artist that does that stuff for me. He's a metal fabricating artist. He builds my staircases, handrails, custom front doors, metal doors, that kind of thing.
Mhm. And what about the color or the finish?
Black powder coat.
I'm a little confused with the connection. Because it looks like, well, you have a little sketch of curb notch. But the curb is,
It's like a lamb's tail on a standard handrail, has a little bit of a grab bar, so to speak, to it on the front side, which is pretty typical. If you look at a lamb's tail of the railings that you sent, it has that type of curved piece to it. It's called a lamb's tail.
well, what curb is that being notched for? It says curb notch.
Pardon me?
Curb notch.
Curved notch.
Curb.
Curb.
That's your note, curb.
Oh,
Notch.
the post, I wanted to cut it out for structural stability. So basically, I was having my fabricator cut it this way so it could be attached here and here. So I was looking for ways to attach it so that there was rigid.
Yeah.
It's not structural if it's not structural, so I needed to attach it I wanted to attach it on both sides, down into the step and horizontally into the step as well.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you could notch out of the 4-inch diameter and fit over the curb. The curb is wider than 4 inches.
Yeah, but it'll come onto the curb and down.
Okay, well, that's not quite what's sketched, but I don't want to get into that detail. I guess my comment is, I think there's room in the district for pieces of artistic expression and whimsy. And this is the sort of thing that some people may like and some may not, but I think it's subjective. I don't think we can approve or deny it on the basis of what it looks like particularly. I mean, it's not going to be like anything else along there, but I'm inclined to approve it. But, you have to kind of think about, I don't think the implication would be then that everybody's going to put an artistic expression up for a handrail. And things just don't go that way. You also have to think that we have painted signal boxes at intersections all through the district, which is artwork. We have painted wolves, which are whimsical in artwork. So it may not be what I would have chosen to do at my house if this were my house, but as I say, I'm sort of inclined to approve it.
Okay. So I have one more question to clarify. So you have 6 benches. You have 6 benches.
I have, whatever, I understand that the benches are not really, they're not attached permanently.
That's my question.
Yeah,
Just to confirm that they're not attached.
Correct.
So the
Mhm.
benches are not attached.
correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Now, so we have some public comment? All right. Mr. Geister?
Thank you. My name is Byram Giesler. I reside at 228 East Main Street. And the only thing I really wanted to address with regard to the proposal is the handrail. And a similar issue came up with regard to this same project before, which is that the Department of Interior guidelines specify that with regard to additions to a site, something being added to the site that's not there before, there are certain guidelines that apply. And those are that that the addition is supposed to be consistent with the historic use of the property and also consistent with the existing structure at the property. So with regard to the handrail, I would submit that guideline would indicate that the type and style of handrail should be consistent with the style of the house, which is a craftsman house. And there are certainly plenty of examples of craftsman style handrails. I just printed off a few that I
I'd like to take a look at
pass
this
around
one.
here. I understand what Mr. Boyd is saying about, artistic tolerance, but that's, to my way of thinking, that's somewhat the opposite of what we strive for in the historic district. And I know this is somewhat of an absurd example, but if you're going to allow for artistic expression like that and not judge that, then, and you're going to take the view that as so long as what's being put up complies with the guidelines in terms of safety and that type of thing, then if someone is a truck aficionado, maybe they want to put up a Ford tailgate as their handrail in front of their house because they like trucks and they're into that and they think that that's beautiful and they want to express that individual quality. That's going to be a real detriment to the historic district. So saying you don't want to step on someone's artistic expression sort of opens up a whole can of worms. And the historic district by design, I mean, we require half-round guttering in structures as opposed to OG guttering. We require that little striations in raised seam roofs not be there because it's a certain look, it's a certain feel that is important and needs to be adhered to keep the historic district feeling like the historic district. So I would submit the Department of Interior guidelines do require that additions such as this be consistent with what would have been there and be consistent with the architectural style of the house, and that this is not consistent with the architectural style of the house. It's some sort of kind of, I guess, fantasy thing, or kind of, if I was going to put it in any category, I would say it's sort of Art Nouveau. This is not an Art Nouveau structure. I don't think we have any Art Nouveau structures in the town. So I think it would be completely inconsistent with what's there at the site, and that that this board should require a more typical handrail that you would see with a structure such as this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anybody have any comments about that?
I do appreciate his
All right.
comments, and I agree with what he said. I feel like this is not the place in town to have this kind of a handrail. I feel like it's right in the center of town. It doesn't fit with anything else in that area. When you looked at the pictures that Mr. Giesler brought us, theirs are more in line with arts and craft, the straight lines, not the curly Q-y things, and a piece of art, which I think is really pushing the boundaries of what the Department of Interior has suggested and our personal guidelines and the staff findings. So, I mean, I'm inclined to make a motion to approve the other items on her proposal, but not this.
And I'll second that. I mean, I think the same way that you think about that as well.
So would you say that so we could hear you?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the landscape proposal, the first section of this, but not the handrail.
What about the stairs? Are we including the stairs in the landscape?
The second set of stairs.
The second set of stairs, okay. Do we have?
I'll second that.
Okay.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to a motion, and so the motion is to, and I'm going to just go over this so we won't forget anything, to make sure, I'm just going to restate it so we don't forget anything that you've got to do, so that you've got your permissions there. So the first thing is over on the east side, the planting bed on the east side, including the earthenware, small pieces of stone, not pea gravel, but small pieces of stone. the same similar situation over on the west side garden
Mhm.
with the earthenware. Is it pea gravel over there, or is it stone over there too?
Stone.
Stone over there too.
Not
Stone in the bed stays put better, and it contrasts better with the pea gravel.
not earthenware.
Did I?
It's not earthenware.
Earth and tone, I meant. Earth and tone, I meant, sorry.
Yes.
I'm used to pottery.
Yes, I understood what you're saying.
Right. Also, secondly, that you will have a new set of concrete steps on that area, in that area, next to that area, over there in the west side of the garden. Is that where they're located?
It's close there. It's in the recessed courtyard section, but they're going up to that corner, so they're
Yes.
in the same area. And then the flagpole's there too, if you want to keep the flagpole in with the landscaping, that can be counted as that.
Okay, we didn't mention the flagpole.
No, we did not.
So there's the flagpole is there?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so the flagpole is there. Then we have the cobblestone center, new cobblestones there, and reuse of the brick that's already there into a what did you call that?
Running bond.
Running bond pattern. And then you're going to, are you going to replace the steps going up to this Main Street sidewalk?
ma'am.
They're staying
No,
as
they're-
is?
They're the original concrete.
And they're staying
in
as
very good
is?
condition.
They're staying as is?
Yeah, they're an original pour, and I don't want to touch them.
Okay. All right. And then you are proposing a handrail that looks like a log. And so therefore, the motion has been to approve everything but the handrail. Is that correct, everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Mr. Boyd?
Well, if I object to one part of that and not to the other, how do I vote?
We could split them up in a sense and do the landscaping as one and then the railing as another, if you wanted to do it that way, but
You would need to make
you would need to
recommend
make another.
denial
Yeah.
here on the whole motion, and then you could make a second motion.
Who would?
You.
You.
You can vote no. Now.
No.
Okay.
Nay.
Okay. Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Mrs. Hartshorn?
Aye.
Mrs. White?
Aye.
Mrs. Bunn?
Aye.
Okay.
Motion carried.
So I don't know if you want to make
Yeah.
another motion? An alternative motion?
Well, I would prefer not to make a motion that includes the substitution. I think I'll leave that to somebody who thinks that's a good idea. Because we don't want to just deny this and then have things continue to yet another
Right.
application.
I think there can be, I believe that we could make a motion now, a second motion, that would, I mean, maybe we can't make the motion, but we can have a discussion with Ms. Sorensen about her wishes to redo that, a substitute motion for
The
that.
subject came up because I broke my hip at a local store here and had to have surgery. So it's only 2 steps. It was not an original intention to even have a handrail there. It was a realization
Uh-huh.
that it would be handy for the group of people that are coming to my home for Bible studies to have it. So I just wanted a handrail there, and I disagree that it does not look craftsman, because in fact, it is a stickly design that is specifically from that era, something that was greatly used in arts and crafts homes of that era. So while there was never one there originally, that's clear, I can't put one in that, the ones that you showed me last time are actually colonial. And so I just wanted something that was more interesting, more unique, and I look around the community and I see lots of art around. And I see a piece of sculpture that's functional as advantageous. So I'll go without if I can't do something that looks decent and figure it out. I've been getting up and down just fine with this walker. I can park it there.
So therefore, I mean, we could create another motion that allows the handrail to either be a simple handrail or one that is reflective of the architecture of the house, the craftsman architecture of the house. Or we could just leave it as it is.
Well, my thought would be that if you would be generous enough to allow for an additional one down the road, that I can revisit it when I revisit signage or other issues that need to come before this city.
All right, that's.
I mean, that seems logical to me, and at this juncture,
Yeah,
I'm
that's fine.
just about rid of this baby.
That's
So,
fine, that's very fine.
if that's fair enough.
That's totally fine, yeah.
Okay.
Okay? All right then?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else on the agenda?
Just some waivers that are there.
Mhm.
So, just the usual stuff, 122 Valley Street, they were doing some landscaping, putting in some
Thank
shrubs.
you all.
Thank you.
So there was nothing there with that. 164 Valley Street, they were putting like-for-like window replacement, vinyl for vinyl. It was in the rear addition of it too,
Mhm.
so no problems with that. And then we have 227 East Main Street, they were just repainting with the same paint, so.
All right.
We did have another thing for Ann Hutton. Did you want?
Sure, so you all have been asking us to do code enforcement against Ann Hutton's project, or property. And so we've been working with Cam, and the next step that would actually need to be required is to invite her to an HPRB meeting.
Again,
Can we fill Dwayne in on Brooke? Maybe you may know which house we're talking.
I think you know which house. There is a house, I actually don't have the address on me, but it is a large house on Valley Street that has the shutters kind of hanging off of it, and a broken porch and some cornices that are problematic, and there's, essentially what we would be going after is for property maintenance. So it's a little bit tricky, because on the historic preservation side of it, you'd actually be asking her to paint the shutters, which is a bit odd, you know, in general. And so what we have put together, and Cam has worked with us, is a letter regarding the property maintenance code, which is saying it's there's things that need to be done, like in order to preserve the structure. So we have to, our next step is that we have to invite her to an HPRB meeting. So we could invite her in June, or if you think that's too soon, we could invite her in July.
Has
I
she-
cannot tell you that she will attend, I just simply
Uh-huh.
are saying
So she's
to you all,
invited.
that's the next step.
Has she been sent the letter?
No, I was waiting to make sure you all knew that that was what her
Oh,
next
okay.
step would be.
Okay.
but we've gone through this entire exercise before,
Sure.
as you probably know, and it led to nothing. Not, as far as I know, she didn't make any improvements or changes. There were just all sorts of reasons why she couldn't.
And I mean, between both you as the HPRB and the Planning Commission members, we've been asked to take another stab at it, so,
Well, I think it's appropriate that we keep trying.
correct.
I say we go for June to get the ball rolling.
Okay. Sounds good. And I don't think we have any other items on the agenda for June as of today, so,
Okay.
Oh, you mean we could have had a month off?
well, I'll tell you now. I don't know.
All
I mean, you
right.
still might if she doesn't show up, but, yeah, that's the next step.
Okay. All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll put that in motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Mr. Boyd?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Mrs. Hartshorn?
Aye.
Mrs. White?
Aye.
Mrs. Bunn?
Aye.
Okay.
All right.